she wanted this like full feathered dress, and she said, I don't care what bird you kill to create my dress. And I'm like, oh my God, we don't kill birds.
Today's guest is the epitome of conviction and holding the vision. She's been through it, the ups and downs, the roller coaster that come with success and rapid growth. That comes with a video that goes viral and suddenly gets 17 million views, and all of a sudden your business goes from this tiny little thing to a global brand.
I signed the lease for my space on McKelvey Street, Grey Lynn.
God.
And I was like, woo, like hired my first employee and doing all the renovations. We were about to open the doors, and then it was like, boom, the first ever lockdown. How are you going to try on a wedding dress virtually?
She started her business in her parents' lounge and is now a global renowned bridal designer with stockists all over the world.
I didn't actually make any money for 6 years. It's not if it will succeed, it's when it will succeed. It was just this internal belief that I've had so many kind of barriers throughout my life. When I was at New York Bridal Week, came home and I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant. 9 weeks went in for the scan and there was no baby. It's a suspected molar pregnancy. I was mentally preparing for chemo.
Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Trish Peng.
Dear Diary, how was it only 2 weeks ago that I was at New York Bridal Week thinking I might be pregnant, and here I am today, no baby and facing potential chemo? And how on earth do I walk into my shop tomorrow and keep going?
Welcome to the Powerhouse Diaries, the podcast for and by brave, bold, and badass business owners. If you're an entrepreneur who has outgrown those cookie-cutter business strategies and hashtag girl boss cliches, you're in the right place. Because let's face it, entrepreneurship is at least equal parts messy buns and runny mascara as it is the highlight reel we see online. So let's get real about what it really takes to build and run a quote-unquote successful business, blood, sweat, and margaritas included. I'm your host, Yaela, your rebellious entrepreneurial fairy godmother, and join me as I sit down with rockstar female founders for the most juicy, deep, and meaningfuls around success, life, and everything in between. Now it's time for you to step into your powerhouse era. Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
How did you get here? I heard somewhere that you started at 7?
Oh, no. So yeah. So I knew I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was 7. And, being a Chinese woman, a child, my parents were like, are you sure you don't want to be a lawyer or a doctor? And I was like, no. And so
I'm good.
They were so supportive. And so I think I saw Vera Wang back in the day, and I was just so inspired. And so I ended up studying fashion design at Whitecliff College, then creating custom dresses for my friends for their ball dresses.
Amazing.
And then naturally people started asking if I do wedding dresses, and I was like, it's just white, right? It's just like the white version of it. But there's actually so much detail that goes into the dresses and the craftsmanship. And I just found my calling.
Yes.
Yeah. So I started, we just celebrated 11 years in business on Friday.
Oh my God.
Isn't that wild?
Congratulations.
And it's actually been longer, but this is like 11 years registered.
Like officially.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, a lot of people think it was overnight or, only a few years, but it's been like 11 years of hustle, blood, sweat, tears. Like legit blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's another story.
It just keeps on happening. We were on a Zoom call the other day.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she's like, I'm bleeding.
I'm bleeding, and I'm like, this is like
but not a little
murder.
bit.
Yeah. She's still healing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So absolute chaos. 11 years, but it's just been so rewarding. I didn't actually make any money for 6 years.
Oh my God. I feel you. And I think this is really important to take a moment because, first of all, this is like, the age-old saying of like, this overnight success only took 11 years, or almost 15.
Yeah.
Like people see the tip of the iceberg. Yes. They also only see what they want to see. They don't see the bleeding fingers on Zoom. But it takes so much like resilience and just actually just being delusional. You know, my kids told me not to say delulu anymore because it's cringe, Mom. It's cringe. But it does, because, you know, in my first 4 years of my agency, which was quite a big agency by the time I sold it, I didn't pay myself a cent. People don't see that. And how did you find the strength, the vision to keep going, especially coming from a background where, you know, traditionally is like, well, you're not a lawyer or doctor, so you brought it up on yourself.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, I do sometimes believe in star signs. Like,
oh, I'm so woo-woo. Welcome home, honey.
Welcome. So, like, it is a common trait of a Capricorn.
Oh, yes.
To just swim upstream. Where, like, apparently, like, my spirit animal is like a salmon. And, so we're just always swimming upstream no matter what kind of hurdles come your way. And so I think as a young girl, I've always just had it's not if it will succeed, it's when it will succeed. And so it was just this internal belief that I'm learning through my own mistakes, but I will get there.
Yes.
And like little bit of fake it till you make it, you know, like, you know, I was like, I'm seeing all these brides, but then I'm not making any money. Like, what's happening? And then long story short, my first 6 years, I was actually living in LA and New Zealand. I was literally going back and forth.
Yes.
Which makes no sense for your bank account, right? That's why I was making no money. Because I was trying to grow international whilst not even understanding how to run a business in New Zealand, you know? So that was a learning curve for sure. And it wasn't until I finally moved home and was based here, and then that's when I finally started to like let go, hire my first employee, and then it was COVID. So, so like
times.
Yeah, that's the whole story.
But it must have been so such a beautiful full circle moment for you, because going from kind of trying to build both at the same time, realizing that's not the way, like I am spreading myself too thin, I'm diluting my attention, anything I can invest, moving back home. I can imagine, was that a hard decision to make? Because there's also that, you know, fake it till you make it of like, I'm living in LA and I'm living in New Zealand.
I'm doing it all. So I think in a way it did help build the profile in New Zealand, because I still had my PR agency here, Lily and Louie. I was with them with them for 10 years, and they helped build my profile in New Zealand, saying like, you know, LA-based New Zealand designer, you know, and
fantastic.
So it kept the momentum going here. So when I came home, I still had brides. I still had, was building that so that when I did move home, I did have that safety net of I have 6 years of trying to build my business, that people are starting to know who I am. And I was just operating out of my parents' like front of their house. Like there was like a little separate door, and so that's where I operated for 6 years. So and then, you know, like first couple of years they were like, that's cool, but then I had to actually start paying rent there, but it was very bad, a small rent, but still like I kept my overheads very low. I contracted to everyone, like the seamstresses, and kept that quite lean. But then it was when I returned home, I realized, okay, I actually need to like level up a little bit.
Yeah, you know? That's a scary moment where you have to jump before you're ready. Like any big business decision, and actually life decision, to be fair, any big decision makes no sense, especially like financially. I built my business initially like you did, where I waited until I had the money to invest, but that meant I'm always behind. I'm always like struggling to keep my nose above water in terms of work and capacity, where when you kind of take that leap and invest, you actually can grow because you're not drowning.
Yes, exactly. And so it was March 2020. Jan 2020, I signed the lease for my space on McKelvey Street, Grey Lynn.
God.
And I was like, woo, like hired my first employee that was and doing all the renovations and all just me and my dad. And then March 2020, we were about to open the doors and my employee was about to start. And then it was like, boom, the first ever lockdown. And that, I think it was like 5 or 6 weeks. I'm a retail-based business, personalized experience. I have to see you in person. How are you going to try on a wedding dress virtually? Like, just, like, so we just had to navigate, and it was wild. So, I just have all these overheads of rent, staff, salary. I don't know how to run staff either, like manage staff, let alone managing them from home.
Oh, God. How did you pivot? How did you manage that?
We just had to pivot. Well, we were quite lucky in terms of like, if you were an on-the-day vendor, like they were affected quite significantly because you like that day's income is gone. Yeah. You can't like get time back. Whereas the brides who had to postpone, they were going to come anyway. Yes.
And so it's very custom made. It's very personalized. It's not like there's tens of people in the store.
Yes. Yeah. So we just delayed that. We tried to kind of push our online sales a bit more. We'll just try to navigate as much as possible. That way we worked on the business rather than in the business. Try to strategize like, okay, future stuff. Like, what are we doing?
But that's amazing because that's, I think, one of the biggest, mistakes a lot of entrepreneurs make, especially like solopreneurs who are kind of bootstrapping it, like you did in the beginning, like I did in the beginning, is we get so caught up with the day to day. Yes. And COVID did create an amazing opportunity to take that step back. If you silver linings. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. So was that because I can imagine it might be quite a dichotomy to be working on the business and strategizing for the future, whilst the future is so unclear. Uncertain. And you just signed all these, like the lease and this, and the world shut down. And for the people listening internationally, like New Zealand's lockdowns
was literally one of the worst,
brutal
in the world, other than Melbourne. I think that they had the worst.
Melbourne was pretty damn bad.
That was pretty bad.
So how did you kind of hold the vision and hold the hope and that delusion?
Yeah. I think we just went back to the end goal, which is I have always wanted a global brand, right? Yeah. Internationally recognized, sold everywhere in the world. And how do you get there? You can't just, yes, we've got our baby store in New Zealand, but how we scale is stockists, wholesale. And so during that, we just started planning how we can wholesale because I had kind of dabbled in it in 2018 when I was living in LA, and we got a few stores. We had like a handful, maybe like 3.
Which at the time, I'm sure is a big
which was
deal.
Incredible. Yeah, for sure. And so we were like, okay, how do we grow this? How do we grow our stockists? Yeah. And I'm a little old designer in New Zealand, like at the bottom of the world. How on earth do we get on the map? So I think it was 2021. We designed our collection at the time, and with the like planned to wholesale that collection. And so we had shot that at this beautiful, was it Lone Pine Estate in Auckland? And we had this dress go viral on TikTok.
What happened?
So we had our model. I was like, why don't you try running the dress? And because it's so long, and she was like 5'8" or something with heels on, but it was made for a 6'2" model with heels on. Like no one.
She's like, sure, Trish, like, I'll run.
Yeah, so she starts running and she trips up on the dress, and then my marketing manager posted that to TikTok, and it was like the quickest video we've ever made.
Isn't it always like that, where you're spending hours, you're like, oh my God, this piece of content is going to change the world. No one watches it. Yeah. This is just a blooper behind the scenes.
Literally. So from there we had, it just started going viral. Overnight we had millions of views, and then now we're at almost 17 million views.
Oh my God.
So that just absolutely went viral. And so it was kind of perfect timing because how you kind of grow your stockist portfolio is you showcase at New York Bridal Week. That's one of the biggest bridal weeks.
Yeah.
And so this was, I think it was October, and we were showcased there. I took my staff member, and we had stockists, these stores, walking by our space being like, oh my God, this dress, I recognize it. I've had brides show me this video of the bride like tripping up. I was like, oh my God, that's me. And they were like, oh my God. And they picked us up. And it was also the first, we were kind of one of the first brands to create mini party dresses.
Yes.
And so a lot of stores were like, oh my gosh, okay, we're going to pick up your whole line. And so, yeah, we just gained that momentum, and we picked up US, Canada, but UK just blew up for us.
Amazing.
We've got maybe like 16, 17 stockists now in the UK.
But how did you keep up? Because that must have been just a growth spurt with the accompanying growth pains, I can imagine.
100%. So the growth of Trish Peng has really only been over the last 3-4 years.
That's crazy.
So now I went from one staff member in 2020, and now there's 10 of us, and I think we'll grow to 14 of us this year. So it's wild. Like, I'm
incredible.
like, I honestly still don't even know how to manage people. And like, people love my team, but hard to manage because you're dealing with different personalities and different needs and different styles of how they like to be managed.
And your role, I find this a lot with female founders. They start a business because they're really good at something and really passionate about something. And then their business grows, which is fantastic. And all of a sudden, the stuff they are doing has very little to nothing to do with the stuff they actually wanted to do.
100%.
And how do you manage that? And also, how do you kind of maintain that? Because, there's the social media version of our life, and then there's reality. So I'd love to hear also like the behind the scenes there. But I see you guys when you're traveling together. I mean, I'm like your Instagram, TikTok stalker. I'm like, oh my God, that looks like so much fun. I want to go to. But how do you, like, it looks like there's a really strong team culture. So yes, how do you?
So I guess let's start with my management style, which is, I think back in the day when business studies, was it like laissez-faire, like you just do you, like that, you know your role, you know your task, just do it. I'll let you flourish, and I'll check in with you some time and time again, or
I'll see you around.
The results will show. So I'm not a very hands-on like micromanager. I'm like, you do you. So I just let them do it. And then there's like managers that will manage, like there's a workroom manager who manage
who like keep the overview of the day-to-day things. But I think in general, like that's the way to go. Like, you're hiring people because of their skill and because they're amazing human beings. I think even more than the skills, because skills you can often learn, but having that like right vibe that matches with you, the rest of the team, with the brand is everything. And letting people, trusting people.
Yes, trusting people.
To be their best selves is things.
For sure. Yeah. And that's what I had to learn, right? So for 6 years, I was like, well, why would anyone want to book in with anyone else? It's my name.
Like, excuse me, why are you booking her?
But it got to the point where brides would be like, oh my God, I've got you. And I'm like, why wouldn't you have me? I'm the only one who works here. It's my name. Like, what? And they were like, oh my gosh, I thought you had a massive team. I'm like, oh.
Fake it till you make it.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Was there ever a time where you faked it till you made it too hard? And what I mean by that is where you're like, okay, I've created this kind of persona, which to a degree we all do every day, right? So that's, I think that makes total sense. But that that the persona may not fully match up with how you're feeling inside. Maybe when something's happening in your personal life, where you have this image to maintain, and in your personal life things are difficult because lives.
Yeah, 100%. So end of last year was actually a bit of a hot mess for me. I was going through some personal stuff, and for those who have followed, like I actually did share it on Instagram, and it was quite healing. But essentially I had in October, when I was at New York Bridal Week, came home and I was like, when I was there, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant. I'm pretty sure it's been a while since it's come. So I waited till I got home with my hubby, and then we did the test, and it was like, oh my God, boom. It was like a hard, like, you're pregnant. And so we did the blood test, your HCG. It was skyrocketed. I was 7 weeks pregnant. And then we were like so excited because we had just started trying. Yeah. And so we're like, wow, we're very fertile. Then I booked in for the scan, right? And then so that was at 9 weeks. In hindsight, I should have just done it right away, or keep calling around, but you don't know. You
don't know. And also that early on, they recommend wait a little because sometimes you don't really see it yet, and that could cause worry. So
yeah. So at 9 weeks, went in for the scan, and the screen's right there. They're doing the belly scan, and then they're like, I'm gonna just go in and do the internal scan, and then we're like, we're still not seeing what I need to see. Essentially, there was no baby. Then it actually took a while for them to get the results to us. So we're just like, what do you mean there's no baby? Like, what would it be? Because I had mentally prepared for miscarriage or ectopic pregnancy because those are so common in the first trimester. And they were like, it's a suspected molar pregnancy. What on earth is a molar pregnancy? Never heard of that. So it's so rare. It is 1 in 1,200 women that essentially my egg had no DNA, and Tim either had 1 sperm that got in and split or 2 sperm got in. So it was like too much DNA to form. So it formed a benign tumor. And so there were layers. It was layers and layers. So the doctor was immediately like, you can't try for another year. And I'm like, bawling. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
it's already a loss. You're grieving the idea.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? We can't try for a year? And they're like, yeah, so you've got to go in for your DNC, emergency DNC, which is where they go in and kind of get everything out. It's what you do when you get a miscarriage as well. And so they went in, I think it was October, went in for the DNC, and it was like, they were so good. I actually went through the public system. I've got insurance, but the private would take weeks to even get an appointment to get a
ridiculous.
DNC. Yeah. But the public system has been incredible. At Green Lane, oh my gosh.
That place is amazing.
Amazing. So basically, DNC and then weekly blood tests. So I literally just had one this morning. I was just like, I hate needles. I can't stand them, but it's just part of the journey now. Getting better. So weekly blood tests. So after the DNC, my HCG levels, so that it has to hit 0 in order. 0 3 weeks in a row, and then after that you can go to monthly blood tests. And I think you need 4 or something for it to be smooth sailing, and then for you to be able to try again.
Right.
And so my HCG actually skyrocketed at the end of last year, and I was mentally preparing for chemo.
It's incredible.
And I was
it's so crazy like how in a split second everything can change, and everything, especially the contrast. Yeah. You're saying, I'm in New York Bridal Week. I'm there. You have this high. I remember this is many years ago. I think about 15 or something. I was on a work conference somewhere in the UK in this very fancy hotel, and I woke up in the morning. And you know how hotels have like these really white, crispy sheets? Yeah. And I had miscarried, but it's very dramatic. You're in this big white bed. Anyway, but the contrast of the pristine, beautiful hotel and the reality felt 100%. Almost like, it was mocking me at the time. I'm like, really? Like it was like a movie. And I can imagine that contrast and then coming home and having that emotional roller coaster. How did you how did you cope with still keeping the business running? Because at this point, you're an international bit. You can't be like, I'm gone. You have a team, obviously.
Yes.
How did you combine those two and honor what you needed?
Totally. Well, I think like I'm someone who has to keep busy. So like kind of still going to work helped me a little bit. Otherwise you're just in your head every day.
Yeah.
I made sure I had my moments of like crying at night, because it was just like this absolute emotional roller coaster, because it was like you can't try for 6 weeks and then skyrocketing, and then it's like, oh my God, I might need chemo, right? So it was just trying to navigate. I was honest with my team. It took me maybe 4 weeks to be able to talk about it on socials.
Yeah, of course.
It was so healing talking about it, because it was so, yes, it's so rare, but the amount of women that I know that had a molar. So there's two types. There's a complete molar and a partial molar. They're both just as bad as each other, but I had the worst one.
Oh, God. But it's also so powerful to speak out to it. On the one hand, healing, but also I'd never heard of this.
Yes.
And there is so much
taboo
taboo around, like even miscarrying, like you said, which is so common, right?
So common.
Especially in the business world. I mean, there's this kind of image I don't know if it's there or if we like kind of hold on to it, which is why I think it's so important to break through it.
Yeah.
Where we're supposed to, just like keep going as if nothing's happening.
Oh.
Well, even in your share now, like before you were sharing about the roller coaster that happened. You're pregnant. I was mentally preparing for a miscarriage. So already we're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
We're assuming that is going to happen and that we're going to have to carry on as if nothing happened.
So many women have shared their experiences, and it's and they were like, I wish I spoke about it with more people, because it's been the most healing experience once they started sharing. You know?
Beautiful.
And for me, like, because I'm a bit of an open book, and it was like, it also every time I talked about it, end of last year, I'd cry, and then I was like, oh my God, let's just get it out to the world, so then like everyone knows, and they don't have to ask me questions. Like
I don't have to pretend to be cool.
But I was lucky. I had my team who just held down the fort basically, and I've got the most supportive husband. He comes to every single blood test with me, holds my hand.
He's a keeper.
Yeah, he's a keeper. And then my family as well. But we just know that I'm able to compartmentalize and be like, okay, it's just not our time yet. Like it'll come. Everyone's had their little rainbow babies.
It's like the business. It's what you said before. It's like the success. It's inevitable. You're already a mum. He's already a dad.
Yeah.
Your baby's coming.
Exactly.
This
just wasn't meant to be yet. And that's how I can move on. But some people are like, yeah, but are you okay? I'm like, but for me, I'm like,
cry now.
What do you want me to cry again in front of you? Like, what do you want from me?
And I think the opportunity without mentally overriding the pain and the anguish that comes with situations like this. Looking at it, and one of my favorite questions I always ask myself, my friends, my partner, my clients is, if we're assuming that life is like geared in your favor, why would this be happening for you instead of to you? And like the most horrendous situations I've been in, and believe me, I've been in a few. I've had my moments of crying and screaming and just breaking down, but in hindsight, when I've moved through like the heavy emotions, there's always a reason why it would have happened for me. Always a lesson, always something that it showed me, which for me makes these situations kind of easier to not digest, but to be like, hey, thank you. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. You can't change the past. So let's just move on. Yeah.
Thank you. Next.
I haven't shared that yet though. So I finally had the good news on my birthday. The nurse called my Christmas Eve and she's like, happy birthday, Trish. Your HCG has literally halved. Oh, so this was
Congratulations.
literally the best news. And the New Year's with my other blood test is going down. So I just had one. I was 17 last week, so hopefully I should be in the single digits and close to 0.
Oh my God.
Praying.
Yes. Well, it's moving in the right direction, and thank God. And what a insane roller coaster in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
My God. Okay. I'm going back to the New York Bridal Week. Actually, I'm going back to just brides. Brides. This fascinates me, right? Because you kind of explained how you rolled into doing bridal.
Yes.
It is it's quite a niche, a type.
Very niche.
And I can imagine that comes with a lot of additional pressure on you and the team, because this is their day.
Yeah.
Like this is it. Everything needs to be perfect. Like there is zero margin for error. And that often, you get to cliche like bridezilla jokes. I can imagine comes with a lot of stress. So I'd love to hear kind of how you guys experience that and how you navigate that extreme pressure, knowing that this is it. This is your one shot.
Oh my gosh. It's almost like alongside a fashion design degree, you need a psychology degree.
Yes!
But not only to deal with the bride, it's like the entourage. There's always one super opinionated entourage member that you almost have to get on your side before you can get the bride on your side.
Oh, God. There's always the one.
There's always that. But I think you've got to have a lot of patience, right? And a lot of me and my team do have that. But like I could tell you so many stories, but like these brides might be listening to. So I'll tell you one that I should probably want to be listening. And it was a while ago. But when I was living in LA, I was working within this bridal shop as their in-house. I kind of just approached them like, hey, look, I need a space and you need a custom designer.
Perfect.
How about let's work together and I'll have your Beverly Hills brides. It was like right on like Wilshire Boulevard. And they were like, that sounds great. So
you're like, really?
Have their bougie brides, but with bouginess comes with entitlement. And so she wanted this like full feathered dress, and she said, I don't care what bird you kill to create my dress. And I'm like, oh my God, we don't kill birds. So like, no.
I don't care what bird you kill. What do you think? I'm going to pluck a chicken?
Yeah, I know. It was so wild. And then, but like they so needy. She's like, she contacted after hours to the store asking when her appointment was with me, and then they didn't get back to her till the morning. But within the evening had contacted, being like, if you don't get back to me, I'm going to sue the shit out of you guys.
God, yes, in the States.
Like, over not getting back to you after hours? What? Like, I can't deal.
Wow.
So New Zealand brides are so chill, so sweet, so easy to deal with. And what they want is definitely more on par with my aesthetic. And that's what I've learned as well, is like, you kind of want to just stick with you. As a designer, as a creative director, you want to create a dress that you actually like.
Yes. I mean, that is so important. Not just, I believe, as a designer. Like, I think what I have learned in, over 15 years of being an entrepreneur and having different kinds of businesses, if something doesn't genuinely lights me up, it won't work.
Yeah.
I mean, it won't work, at least not for the long term, because we're energetic beings.
Yeah.
People feel each other's energy before. So if there's no like joy in it, and also vice versa, things that bring the most joy and that at first glance might not seem like the most strategic choice, always end up working out. One of my favorite quotes is by woman Rebecca Campbell. I quote her all the time. and she says something, if you're just brave enough to follow the breadcrumbs of what lights you up, you'll inevitably end up lighting up the world around you. And I think that's true for your designs. If you love it, like that's tangible and palpable for your clients.
100%. Yeah. So rewarding.
So how do you deal, because this is a world I don't know, with design and making things you love and that are so unique. Like you said, you're one of the first to create the mini dresses and stuff like that. And then the copycats out there.
Don't even get me started on these. Oh man, like it still annoys me, but there's almost nothing you can do about it, because if you spend your time with lawyers and all that, then you can't focus on what you need to do, which is the next collection already. Yes. So it's almost like I want to send like a cease and desist to a particular brand. It's probably going to be listening to this. But like, your energy needs to go to creating the next thing. What's the next thing? Because people will always copy. You just got to be onto the next innovative style. It's hard though sometimes. So I design with my team. There's a group of us that do it now, because everyone knows like what the brides actually want out there, because it needs to be like commercial versus like something quite unique. That's us. Yes, that's not that wearable, but someone will wear it. But it does boil your blood.
I can only imagine. And I think that's a really good point though. I've had this in my agency a lot, where people, copy things, or people leave the team and then kind of try and make a mini version of everything they've learned over the past years. Yeah. And it used to drive me crazy. And then I realized, it's the creativity, the innovation, the ability to be like, I'm going to put my energy in creating something new versus in fighting something old.
Exactly.
That's missing. Like they can't create. Yeah. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy world to navigate.
And then it's like you want to just block them on social, but they're just going to find another way to watch your stories.
Oh, they're going to, they'll find it. Or they'll go watch every wedding picture gallery. Or
exactly.
So what is the legacy? What is the big, like, I don't want to say end goal, because you went from wanting to build internationally to scaling it back down to now blowing up all over the world, the States, Canada, the UK. What's next?
Right. So I guess the end goal, I mean, the ultimate goal, not end.
Yeah.
Good point. Is global, globally recognized. People are always asking, like, why don't you just open your stores everywhere, Trish Peng stores? And I mean, that would be great, but what I've learned in business is having overheads and having staff and finding the right people. That people are the hardest to manage in business. So if I have multiple stores everywhere and I'm physically not there enough, that's going to be a disaster. Yeah. Like we pride ourselves on like 5-star Google reviews.
Yes.
Please don't go on and give me a bad one. But like,
please give her more.
I'm able to control and manage the current one because I'm here. Yeah. So the goal is to have more stockists worldwide, right? That's how you scale. You utilize stores that are on brand with you to carry our line. And then they deal with the brides, and then we just ship directly, and that's how you can scale. We can have thousands of stores, So right now we've got 50, which is cool.
Which is amazing massive, from the three
that I had. And so now our plan is to, just to scale that really. And that way you can still, maintain our flagship store in Greyland and our personalized experience here, and then sending so we can dress brides worldwide.
Yes.
And then hopefully I have a daughter and she can take over my business. Amazing. Or a son. He might want to as well.
I love that. Now, when you look back at the young Trish in her parents' house, slaving away, going up and down between LA and What is, if you could go back and just like tap her on the shoulder and be like, hey, babe, here's one piece of advice.
Oh gosh, there's quite a few. Is just like don't take no for an answer, or you're asking the wrong person.
Yes,
right. This is a good Christian quote, but I solely believe in that. Right, like I've had so many kind of barriers throughout my life. Starting from high school, I didn't get into the high school I wanted.
Yeah.
St. Cuthbert's, and I was like, what other school is there? And then, so I went to junior college, senior college. Then from there, I enrolled at AUT for fashion. That's the only school I knew existed for fashion.
Yeah.
I didn't get in.
Are you really?
Yeah, so I'm like, what do I do now?
Oh my God. They must be looking at you now and be like, oh my God, who was in charge of enrollments back then?
Yeah. But, I think it is the resilience that I have of like, okay, well, I'm not going to not do fashion, because someone said no to me. I'm like, let's find another school. So I went to
That is such an important thing. And I think anyone listening who is just starting out in their entrepreneurial journey, or not even just starting out. I mean, like life and entrepreneurship is like just getting. One of my favorite quotes is like, success is just getting up one more time than falling down. Yeah, it's not about not falling down, but I think that conviction, like you had the vision of this is my life. This is my So if I'm not gonna do it this way, then
I'll find another way. Yeah, and even with just everything in life, but like my current mortgage. So one of my investment properties, it was with a second tier lender, which I would not recommend. It was just really low interest rates back then. And it was a bit of a Tim and I want to move in together. So I was like, okay, I'll just buy an apartment. And oh my gosh, when the interest rates changed, I was paying 10 plus 11. Oh, if I had locked it in, it was in the 13, 14, 15s. So I was floating for 10 to 12% for the past 2 years.
Oh God.
Absolutely ridiculous. And I was trying to get it refinanced with the bank, but because I've got also a very good accountant, on paper, I don't know if IRD's going to be watching that. So on paper, she did it so that the banks were like, well, no. Yeah. And I was like, what? So I had to sit on that for 2 years. And I was like, okay, well, we've got the wrong mortgage broker.
Yeah. We're asking the wrong guy.
We're asking the wrong guys. Let's find someone else. Otherwise, I'll still be sitting on it. Oh, finally got that sorted. And it's halved. Do you know how much more, spending money I have to save now?
To actually live?
It's
kind of like when you were going up and down between LA and Auckland.
Yes. It's wild. So you've got to ask around, look around.
You're just asking the wrong guy.
You're asking the wrong guy, yeah.
Last question of our interview. I can't believe how, I can do this all day.
I know.
But we always kind of flip the script towards the end. Is there anything that you'd like to ask me, or you think
sure
would like to hear?
Well, how did you build your community? You've got so many Instagram followers. You're so present and consistent with your social media. How did you build that?
It's so funny you asked that, because I have such a love-hate relationship with social media.
Oh, don't
to the point where I recently put up a post and said, I'm kind of done with social media. I'm done with having to do it, because the struggle I have, especially within the Powerhouse Alliance, which is the overarching brand, where the coaching business and the affiliate business and everything falls under, and the podcast. And my whole ethos with the brand is to support female founders move through their kind of let's say, a rite of passage that we all have from that place of, I call it the hashtag girl boss phase, where we are like, oh my God, woke up like this and made 10K without even trying. And it's all very shiny and amazing. And also that comes, like, it's so sweet. Like, I think we've all been there to a degree, the fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And it kind of helps us get into the mindset of what's next. But in this phase, we all kind of look around and look for the next guru and the next template and the right way to do it. And I think when I stopped looking for the right way to do it and started to trust my intuition, stopped playing the part of I'm Jayla, the businesswoman, and whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah.
And really started being myself. That's when the brand really started running. So that means that when I said, hey guys, I don't really want to do social media. And also, I don't think you really want to see the curated. I mean, look at your viral video, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It went viral because it was real. So, but what I do love is with all my clients, we have like voice notes, we have WhatsApp messages going back and forth, little, golden nuggets being shared. I said, you know what, I'll start a community there. And share little insights, and I'll still post online, but not because I have to.
Yes.
Because I created this, I felt like people were looking at the content, and there was always this kind of, I was a little bit out of integrity, because there's always like, oh, do you want to work with me? And it wasn't like genuinely connecting.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So I think that really helped when I took off the pressure of it having to look a certain way.
Yes.
That really helped. And the community, like the women in the alliance and my clients, but also like you, like just people in my world, are so delicious. Like they literally, I just want to hang out with them and I want to talk. That's why we created this podcast. It's like, there's such inspiring founders out there, and when they get that permission slip that no one ever needed to begin with, to be unapologetically themselves, then they create magic. And I think that's what the world needs, more female-led businesses where we stop pretending and just like unleash.
Like more authentic stuff too, right? Like TikTok. It's well, sorry, USA people.
Sorry guys.
Right now, but it'll come back. How with TikTok, I really don't care. Like I just will do it in one take, just post.
Yeah.
And then Instagram is very curated. And our generation is like TikTok. I mean, Instagram. And then there's these Gen Zers. Just yarning away. Like,
but it's working. And I think it's also like, there's your product, you are selling a dream day, like, a dream feeling. This is your moment. Like these dresses create, it's more than a dress.
Yes,
it creates,
Yes.
anyone who's, doesn't have to be a wedding dress, but who's ever put on something that's made them feel absolutely fabulous. Like you carry yourself differently, you feel like it changes, it alchemizes something within you. So there is a really, I think, important place for creating that same feeling to a degree online as well.
Yeah.
Where for me, it's kind of the opposite. I'm trying to kind of like poke holes in the curated dream. I'm like, hey, I'm really great at what I do sometimes, and I'm a idiot other times, that's all okay. Yeah, because we all are.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love it.
Oh, darling, thank you so much for coming here today. Such a joy. And for anyone listening, all Trisha's info will be linked in the show notes, where you can find her, where you can find her brand, where you can find her story. So go show her some love. And thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.